Hi, everyone. Welcome to TechTO Quick Takes. I'm your host, Alex Reilly, and here are today's headlines. Spellbook conjuring up a 20 million US dollar round in its second raise in a year. Two serial acquirers announce some new acquisitions, and Beatdapp raises 17 million. To help break it down, as always, Alex Norman joins me. How are you, Alex?
Great. How are you, Alex?
I'm good. It also appears that you so far have been correct about some of your predictions for what you'd see happening in 2024 with some more acquisitions and announcements. So looking pretty good so far.
It's good to be lucky.
Yeah, I'm hopefully more, news like this and more announcements and things like this that we're talking about.
Yeah.
That being said, obviously that's just the ecosystem has obviously ups and downs, but today some positive things to talk about. So for our first headline, Spellbook conjuring up 20 million USD in its second raise in a year. And I find this interesting because obviously they did raise in 2023, so we'll talk about that. But
Yeah.
a few people involved in this as well. So what's the news there? And also who helped to make this happen?
Well, so Spellbook, announced a $20 million raise.
Mhm.
It was led by Novia Capital with participation of past investors. It can name them all, but it's basically interesting ones are Thomson Reuters Ventures, big legal company, the Legal Tech Fund, Blink Capital, Moxie Ventures, N49P, which is my fund, and several others.
I was going to say, I do recognize the N49P one.
Yeah.
So we have done a pretty in-depth profile of Spellbook before in the newsletter, which I can, again, link. But for those maybe who missed that or don't know, what is Spellbook? What do they do?
So in a nutshell, they use LLMs or generative AI to enable lawyers to review and draft contracts.
Okay, I love it. Just high level Cole's notes of what they do. So as I said, they did announce a raise in 2023, I believe, pretty recently. So why, I guess, raise again, or why even just announce now?
Well, so they did raise last year, and they were able to raise again due to rapid growth of the company. In the last year, they 10x revenue while increasing their user base by 300%. So they raised from a position of strength and a position to scale faster. There's a thing when you grow fast.
Yeah.
Even if you're spinning off lots of cash, it's good to have additional capital to support that growth and continue the velocity.
And frequently asked question we get all the time just about especially news like this and about raises is just how rounds are able to come together. So are there any things that you can highlight or that stand out to you that helped this round specifically come together for them?
So I know he led around and they actually have a great blog post about why they invested.
Okay.
And I'll sort of summarize it here because I think it's pretty pertinent. So look, they're a startup, and this is part of our why thesis. So we said, like, hey, last year was a year of big LLM models and investing in a lot of infrastructure. And now we're going to have apps get funded. The people building upon the generative AI and LLMs. And the question is, what do you need to be a successful company then? What's the early signs? Spellbook is exhibiting those signs of what it takes to build a successful company in the space, because people weren't saying how it's going to be different. So first is they understand their customer. Prior to launching the Spellbook product, this company already had software out there for lawyers. They understood how lawyers work, what's their workflow, what's the tools, what's the challenges face, and what they valued. So what lawyers valued. So first I had a deep understanding of how to build a product that lawyers would love. Second thing is they've been quick to adapt and experiment based on user feedback and the new technology. The LLMs have changed quickly, generative AI has changed quickly. They have a lot of users. They're listening to both and quickly iterating on the product and their go-to-market and positioning to win. The product has improved significantly over the past 18 months. And you see the validation of this in the numbers. We talked about the revenue and user growth, but to get a bit more concrete, they have 1,700 law firms worldwide using the product. 86,000 contracts are opened on the platform monthly. And it's Spellbook, from the feedback from the customers, saves 30% of their customers' time by using Spellbook. So what does a lawyer want? The most valuable thing monetarily and just
their time
is their time.
Yep.
And so Spellbook is saving them 30% of their day. Like, can you think of the last software you used that had such an impact on your life?
I honestly can't. No, that's
so
I think that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you hear this, hey, here's a company that seems to understand their customer, seems to understand the technology, and is not only seeing user growth
Yeah.
and usage growth, but the fact that the ROI is so clearly there for their customers, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So number one, a deep understanding of their customer. And I mean, as you said, saving time. And I think it seems obvious enough, but companies don't always listen to the feedback from their customers. So I think that's especially a good one to highlight. So again, a large round. What would this kind of funding allow them to do? Further building out their product, growth, scale. What would this get
Yes
them?
and yes, right?
Yes.
Like, so Spellbook is, they want to have 30,000 law firms worldwide using the product as soon as possible. Um, the ability to build a product, the team, and the go to market to support that and get there as soon as possible can be supported by additional capital. They know how to deploy it, they know how to use it. So this is, 1,700 law firms is great. 30,000 law firms is even better.
Yeah, 100%. And just lastly, final takeaways for our community.
So, stated this before, it's still early days in the building applications off LLMs and generative AI. But the companies, the startups that understand their customers' workflow and needs and can build products quickly will get financing right now. We'll see a lot more of these this year. And that financing may help them build a flywheel to pull away from potential competitors. Second thing is, generally I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I see this announcement here or there about this AI-based company. It seems like it's crazy 2021 valuations." You had companies raising off $1 million ARR, 500 million valuations in 2021.
Yeah.
I think don't know all the fundings out there, don't have knowledge of everything. I think the companies that are raising these big rounds right now have rapid growth, customer adoption, and revenues. So while the rounds are big, it's off a very rapid growth. And I think finally, many traditional slow industries are going to adopt this new round of technology. Lawyers were not considered a great place to sell before generative AI. And now some of the hottest startups out there are legal tech. And it's because lawyers are adopting it, because this actually makes a difference to them.
I would think because of the complexity of what's involved in just the day-to-day for a lawyer that it would be challenging, especially with AI. And I think maybe even in terms of how we're using it, it might be challenging. But yeah, they are obviously filling a gap and solving a problem. And as you said, saving time. And it sounds to me like just something that will further adapt and create efficiency for lawyers.
Yeah.
So
and
go on to highlight.
One more thing actually to highlight here is some of these early winners know how to adapt and avoid hallucinations that their customers don't want. Lawyers need, we've all heard a story about the lawyer that went to court off something ChatGPT told him, and none of those cases were correct.
Yeah.
Companies that win here. So just building off. So why can't ChatGPT or OpenAI do this? Is because they have to fine tune for the workflow, but also have to fine tune the output to meet the standards of their lawyers, which I think Spellbook has done well here.
I even think just from my perspective with ChatGPT, as helpful as it is, there is an element, fact checking, making sure it's correct. And you cannot be wrong as a lawyer.
The best one is just, complete digression here.
Okay.
Talking about hallucinations. Early on, I was talking to my brother. I was a dentist, showing him ChatGPT. And one of the questions, trying to say, okay, who's Alex Norman? I said, don't know. Alex Norman, Toronto Tech. And eventually, he said, "Oh, I'd love to see how accurate this is. Can you say what companies did Alex Norman fund or invest in?" And basically, it's spat out the 10 or 15 biggest tech companies over the last 10 years, many which were found before I started investing. Okay. And so it just shows how it can hallucinate. I wish that was my record. And my brother-in-law has been asking me to buy dinners and drinks since he saw that list, even though I explained to him it wasn't accurate.
This is what I meant by you seemingly so far being correct about your predictions and the trends that you were seeing for the new year. So more acquisitions being announced. And as we like to do, combining a couple headlines, or I guess companies within this headline. So Point Click here and MyoVision, we're talking about them. So I guess just dive into what the news is there about both of those.
Yeah, well, maybe the headlines are these are two companies, large, medium to large Canadian tech companies that over the last few years have acquired other companies and tucked them in. They started both of the start of years with announcements. Point Click Care announced its acquisition of American Health Tech. Myovision acquired CJ Hench and Associates.
Okay. And so tell us what and why, just in regards to the Point Click Care announcement.
Okay, so the what is AHT makes what's called electronic health records, and particularly for the post-acute market. And their parent company was about to discontinue them. So why Point Click Care was probably interested is AHT serves a customer segment that Point Click Care targets. And from the information in the announcement, it sounds like this is basically an opportunity to acquire customers that they consider with their current product on what's most likely a cost-effective basis, better than going and acquiring customers by going to market. So this was an acquisition to basically acquire customers.
And then same question, but just about Myovision, just the what and why of that acquisition.
So Myovision actually acquired one of its customers, CJ Hench. So the company CJ Hench basically is a data traffic collection company. And this one is a bit different than what we typically see with these acquirers. Usually it's to expand a product line or get distribution. And this may be expanding the product line by vertically integrating up or down the stack and how you look at it. But the way it was positioned by Myovision was they just acquired its customer to better learn their customer needs. Now, both of those can be true. Neither can be true. If Myovision is starting to compete with its customers by going up the vertical stack, and they definitely have the P firm backing to roll up different parts of this industry, that might be the real goal, but they would not want to make it look like they're competing with their customers, and so they would not position it that way. So it's an interesting acquisition. I think it's better to understand their customers, potentially to expand their product and more vertically integrate. It'll be interesting to see what happens going forward.
And probably for a reason why you chose to, I guess, mention both of these companies, but are there any just similarities that you can point out between the two of them? Hence, we wanted to combine them.
These two are probably two of the earlier companies in Canada to use the capital they have on their balance sheet, so the actual cash, and a well-priced stock, which adds currency to basically grow inorganically. I think for both of them, this is either acquisition 4, 5, or 6. They are in a position of strength. They're large. They have healthy balance sheets. They have the financial backing to go take opportunity in a weak market to acquire and grow faster. I think these are two of probably 10 that we expect to see make announcements this year. This was probably the easiest prediction. When someone's in a position of strength, they continue to acquire. And I think it's interesting to see the first two be Myovision and Point Click Care.
Yeah, and we covered Point Click Care in one of our podcast series. Again, something else I can link out to, just if anyone wants to learn more about what they do. So as you said, this was sort of what you expected to see for the new year. Do you expect more deals like this? Or as you said, not everyone is going to all the time announce acquisitions like this. So do you see maybe some of them not being announced? What are your thoughts?
Look, there's going to be a set of companies in our ecosystem that are well financed, are positioned to grow and basically roll up their industry. They will make, I think there'll be a lot of them smaller acquisitions that aren't announced. I think if you are looking for an exit in your space, you should figure out who the Point Click Care or Myovision is, and you should start talking to them now. I think what's interesting for companies that are doing this, they have to build two skills which most startups don't build till much later. One is the ability to identify and acquire companies, and the ability to then integrate companies. So maybe it's also sometimes say this is going to be a subsidiary and we're going to touch it, but lots of times we're going to, like when you're getting the customers, how do we make that transition, make it happen without being a distraction? So to be successful, they need to have the balance sheet, and they have to have the skills. And I think we're going to see I think I see like there's 10 of them in Canada that are doing well. And it's along the same lines. This model seems to be backable by financing generally. In Montreal earlier this week, Valsoft Corporation announced that it raised $770 million USD to execute a similar playbook in vertical SaaS. And I'm not sure which verticals, but you can see there is financing out there for these companies.
Mm-hmm. You heard it here first. So more acquisitions potentially to be announced. Great positive note to leave us with. And just our last headline to keep things moving along. I've never heard of this company before. So looking forward to you just maybe explaining more about what they do. But so Beatdapp, they recently nabbed 17 million in funding. So let's just start with, I mean, I maybe gave a little bit of it away, but just what the news is and also what they do.
Okay, so they're Vancouver based. They announced a 17 million round from Saltagen Ventures. Mm-hmm. They also announced a couple other partnerships with music industry players. What they currently do is they enable digital service providers, music labels, collection societies, creatorial services, and music distributors to find fraudulent music streams.
I feel like something like this would have been great when I was younger. I don't know if you remember LimeWire, but when we were all downloading our music from LimeWire and, you know, giving our parents' computers viruses. I know I was doing that because I didn't want to buy things on iTunes.
That was something, and I had Napster, and I think those were purely illegal downloads, right? What's interesting is what's happened as the music industry has matured into a streaming first, digital first industry. The proper rights holders aren't getting paid for the work fully. And what I mean here is if you download a Napster and LimeWire, which were at that the original Napster, no one's getting paid because those companies
their options, right?
Yeah. But what happens now is like if you go to Spotify or you go to YouTube Music or Apple,
Amazon
Apple
Music too.
Lots of places you can stream, and lots of them have these contracts where they pay per streaming services per stream, right? And like you that's how traditionally music is played. Like every time it's on the radio, they get a payment. And what's happening is people are uploading fraudulent music. It could be music that's a derivative of something that I don't know, whatever artist you listen to has made, or it could be someone actual original track, but the payments go to someone else. So what they're doing is they're getting the music injected into these streams, because I imagine Spotify doesn't want to look at everything uploaded. They couldn't look at everything that's uploaded. And as they get listened to, the person that put the fraudulent music, either the derivative or the original, but just different payment, they're getting paid versus the person that created it. So what they're doing here is they're basically, so they're robbing the rights holders from the earnings and hurting the entire music industry. So this is what Beatdapp stops from happening.
Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of answered, I guess, what my next question was. I feel like TikTok should look into something like this, because I know in a lot of cases there are, independent, I guess, content creators that will sample music and kind of mix it into something else. But again, the original sample that's being used for something new they're creating, that artist is not getting streams, acknowledgement, payment, anything like that. And a lot of times you see that the music has to get removed from TikTok. At least I've been noticing that. So it's nice to see that there's something that exists that can protect, I guess, these original creators and artists, right?
Yeah. And what's interesting here, I think the reason they're able to raise is this is becoming a growing problem as more music is digitally streamed and fraud became a larger problem. But I think, who do you trust to identify this? So I think Beatdapp seems to position himself as a trusted, neutral third party that doesn't favor one party over the other. So that here's someone that we can trust to audit the streams. They seem to have very little false positives. So here's a third party that can go across the industry, can be the industry standard, saying, okay, Beatdapp is basically certifying that we should get paid, and those people should be paid.
Yeah.
So when you position yourself like that, it becomes attractive to investors.
I was going to say, and also as an artist, they have you in mind, right? It's all about protecting you. So all great points. Again, you kind of just seamlessly went into kind of all the questions that I had, but just any final takeaways or thoughts about, even just from your perspective as an investor, is this something we should be paying more attention to?
I think what's interesting here is technology, why does a company startup exist? It's using technology to solve a problem better than it was solved before.
Yeah.
But sometimes the new technology just gives you another area, a new problem. So imagine like paid streaming services would solve the problem for just the Napster problem, the LimeWire problem, but it created a new avenue for fraudulent streams, and that attacked the new business model, right? Yes, there was bootlegged and illegal downloads before, but here's a brand new problem. And so it needed a brand new solution. And I think sometimes it's interesting as we look at it, and we're seeing this even like, and again, it's not always obvious, but even like you look at, let's talk about generative AI and LLMs. So there's a big challenge right now when you train your data model on the data, it's in there, right? And so let's say in lots of countries with SEO, you can go to Google and say, hey, I have a right to be forgotten. I don't want anything about Alex Norman coming up in your searches. And it's now we're expecting that should be happening, and let's say I'm trained on the searches and that, whenever you ask about Alex Norman, it spits out stuff. And so I expect the law will soon say that, hey, if Alex Norman can go to OpenAI and say he wants to be forgotten from anything ChatGPT throws out. Now, if you talk to anyone that's trained a model, it's not clear how the hell you're going to do that. So we're going to need a new tech solution to be able to do that.
Yeah. I also think it was interesting that you laid out that as much as this is solving a problem, it kind of does open up things for, I guess, like other issues or other potential avenues for, I think it was the Napster founder. He was originally creating the technology to protect music, but then through that ended up finding out ways that you could, I guess, illegally download music too. But share music.
No one was doing anything illegal.
Shared music. Okay, sure. Shared music. Yeah, wow, what a throwback. But that's how, I'm a Spotify user now, but yeah, LimeWire was definitely something that I was using back in the day. Okay, so again, we covered a lot in this episode. Lots of takeaways, obviously, for our community. I just want to leave, I guess, everyone that's listening just with a couple events, promotions, and news. Our first event of the year was extremely successful. We had an amazing turnout, lots of insiders there. The content was amazing. And we're back again at Rotman. So if you couldn't join us for our earlier event in January, we're back on February 12th, which is very exciting. And then also we have a marketing specific event on February 26th, and then Best of TechTO, and also back at City Hall. If you've never been to City Hall like myself, pretty cool opportunity to get to go. And then April 24th, also at Rotman. So all of this available on our website, techto.org. Also, as always, linked in our show notes. I was doing a lot of talking. Any final points, Alex, before?
No, just come see us in person.
Yeah. Also, anytime you want to learn more and get stuff right to your inbox, subscribe to our newsletter too. Anyways, I think that's all from my end, but it's nice to see you, Alex, again, as always.
Great to see you.
Thank you for helping us break it all down. Please leave us your takes, your opinions, your questions about anything that we covered or anything that you would like us to cover. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you are watching or listening to this. And we will be back in 2 weeks' time with another edition of TechTO Quick Takes. And until then, we'll see you on the inside.
We're in the business of delivering impossible things. We're in the business of delivering things that nobody's ever seen before.
If you build that culture, you'll come up with really cool and innovative stuff, and literally could be in the next multi-billion-dollar idea. So this conversation is largely going to be about scaling yourself and scaling your leadership team.
I want to talk about one of the biggest struggles that I think a lot of startups face early on, which is building initial traction.